YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I have 7 players that you should gamble on and select in your fantasy football drafts. These players definitely considered risky by most, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not too scared to take them, and I actually am targeting these players, especially where their average draft position is right now. They feel like steals. So I'm going to break it down. There's a lot of players I stay clear of. We can make a video on that as well. Too risky to take. But these players, I'm risking it for these players. So excited to break it down. Follow us on Twitter for a lot of NFL news, rumors, more, talking fantasy with you guys there. Any questions, we got you there. Super followers get bonus content. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on for full NFL coverage. Cannot wait for our in-season coverage. Can't wait. Here's our Twitter. A lot of news, rumors, updates. Like we said, we got the details in that Titans-Raiders trade. Always keeping you guys up to date. So player number 1 is going to be Alvin Kamara, who really gets a boost now that it sounds like he most likely won't be suspended. It sounds like a next year thing that he may be suspended in 2023 because everything keeps getting pushed back. There is the risk that maybe the suspension still happens. Maybe it happens later in the year. I don't really get the feeling, and I think Alvin Kamara is. I feel like there's a shortage on running backs for fantasy. There's not a lot I feel great about. Look at the receivers. I think everyone's in the same boat. Look at the receivers, and there's just so many. Like, if I don't get this guy here, there's this guy in the second round, there's this guy in the fourth round. Running backs, it's not the case. Kamara is a special player, especially for fantasy football. Obviously with his ability to run the ball and catch the ball in the backfield, line up as a receiver. So I think he really gets a bump up here. Average draft position is starting to move up. It's at 17. I think that's a steal at 17. So if you're drafting now, I don't really like drafting this early. I kind of wait to the last second. That's me. But you might be in luck if you're drafting right now. You might be able to get Kamara a little bit later than where you're going to be getting him a week from now, or maybe a little bit more. And you see best and worst ranks. So this is a collection of experts' rankings, and the best rank, somebody has him up at 5, and then somebody has him down at 60. So you see the difference there. But yeah, I think he's a first-round player now if you're willing to take that gamble on him not getting suspended. If he is suspended, I think it'll be 4 games at some random part of the season. But it really feels like it's going to happen next year. I'd rather take the risk on a guy like this than some of those guys that just other running backs that continue to get hurt. So big fan of Kamara's game, big fan of him for fantasy, and it just doesn't feel like he's going to get suspended right now. So yeah, that average draft position of 17 just feels like a steal there. Speaking of the Saints, Michael Thomas really growing on me right now. It really, based on what we see and hear from training camp, it just really feels like we might be getting the old Michael Thomas, which isn't that old, just a couple years ago, which was considered the best receiver in football. He seems healthy, and I usually stay away from the injury guys, but Michael Thomas is the guy that I want, especially with that average draft position of 66. That is a steal there. I would take him earlier in that. And you see the difference in ranks there, 32, 129 for the best and worst rank. But I feel pretty good. Just got to trust my gut. My gut's been right on some things here. Obviously, the 1 year I hated myself in fantasy. I took a bunch of those, the Barkleys, a bunch of guys like that. But I don't get those vibes from Michael Thomas here. It seems like he's back. And remember, it's not like an injury that just never got better. It was an injury that should I have surgery on it or not? And it kind of got pushed back. So that kind of delayed. He was working out on it more before the surgery, and it kind of delayed everything, which kind of makes sense. And it would make sense that he's back to form right now. And Michael Thomas, a special receiver that can play inside and outside. I like to say he can run any route. I know some people label him just a slant guy. He runs a lot of slants, but he can run any route. Just a rare combination. I don't really need to explain Michael Thomas, but just a rare type of receiver. And the Saints want to throw the ball a lot more too, so that definitely helps. So I'm feeling Michael Thomas lately. I'm not scared to take him, and I'm usually one that's a little cautious on players with injuries as well. So a couple Saints players that I really like. Next, JuJu SmithSchuster, which is tough because recent news that they're holding him out of practice because of an injury. It seems to be like they're playing it safe with him, and he has had some injuries pop up in the past. I just love the idea of JuJu in that Chiefs offense, especially where he's getting drafted. He's really a steal at this point. See, down at 76th overall pick. I think people are sleeping on him. I think because of the injury, but because he hasn't been super productive recently either. But going from the Steelers, kind of run first, Big Ben, not the best offensive line, to the Chiefs, pass first, Patrick Mahomes, great offensive line, and the Chiefs have been they've had great targets, mainly Hill and Kelsey, but what they were missing was a legit slot receiver, and JuJu's a dominant big body slot receiver that can really do it all. It's just so perfect for the Chiefs offense and he's easily their number one receiver. I know people look at it like, oh, the Chiefs are pretty deep. On top of JuJu kind of having some injury concern, we don't know we're going to get. I know we're going to get from JuJu if he's on the field, but some people maybe don't know what they're going to get. And then they kind of think, oh, the Chiefs are pretty deep at receiver. Yes, they are kind of deep at receiver. They have more of a variety now, but it doesn't affect their best receiver in JuJu SmithSchuster. So big fan, especially where he's being projected, where he's being drafted right now. A little risky with the injuries, though. We've seen some minor ones pop up here. Next, DeAndre Hopkins. Is this a risky pick? I don't know. I guess it's debatable if it's a risky pick. I think the problem is most people will almost write him off. Like, you're going through your draft. I think I did a mock draft. I almost did it as well, and I'm kind of realizing, you kind of write him off. You kind of forget about him. Like, oh, there's that guy that I kind of like, and there's this guy that I kind of like, and there's DeAndre Hopkins, who's a lot better, but, oh, he's suspended 6 games. Forget him. No, where he's being drafted because he's suspended 6 games down at 95. I see somebody has him ranked as low as 208. Those are people that just, he's suspended, I don't want him, and I'm not looking at it that way where I'm usually a fan of loading up on some talented receivers early. That has worked out for me in the past. So if I can do that, get some stud receivers, maybe 3 starters, including that flex there, and then Hopkins is sitting there around the 95th pick, I am feeling really good about that. Like, you don't even need him to start early on. You can have him on the bench for the first 6 weeks, and then you got this star elite receiver, and yes, that's what he is, in a high-powered passing attack offense, waiting to put in. It's just an epic steal. It's really an epic steal. So I think this is one of maybe it's not really a gamble. I think it's just kind of maybe a tip. Don't write off DeAndre Hopkins. Don't scratch him off your board because he's suspended. Don't forget about him. If you're, like I said, I like loading up on receivers early, and I just plan on having a good starting receiver group before I consider DeAndre Hopkins. And if that is the case for you, then I would definitely target DeAndre Hopkins because you don't have to worry about him. You don't have to worry about missing him for 6 weeks. So can't forget about him, that's for sure. Robert Woods as well. People are sleeping on him. Average draft position 102. I'm not really worried about the injury. I think he's going to come back from it. Players come back from it more and more this year, and there's really nothing that says he's going to get injured again. Of course, it's possible, but it's possible with anyone. There's just nothing that tells me this guy is going to have durability issues. He's going to get hurt again. There's nothing that really says that to me. And then you factor in, the Titans don't have A.J. Brown. They have Robert Woods. They have Treylon Burks. They have Kyle Phillips, who's sneaky. They like him as well. But these guys are I feel like situational guys. Burks, up and down. I mean, a roller coaster ride, how inconsistent, I guess the word has been on Treylon Burks. They're going to use them. They're going to get creative with Burks as well. But I think we're going to see moments where it's like flashy moments, and there's like, where's Burks? I think we're kind of get that in his rookie year. And then Phillips, again, has surprised people. It sounds like they really like him. They're going to use him. But, Titans don't use a lot of receivers. They use 2 tight end sets. Phillips is a pure slot receiver. They're not going to use him a whole lot. Robert Woods, a guy that can play inside and out. He can run any route down the field, underneath, get him the end arounds as well, give him the quick slants. Get along the sideline. You can do anything. So if the Titans are going to use a receiver, if there's a receiver out there, they're going to use him many different ways all the time. It is Robert Woods for sure. So combine those things that I'm not, in the back of my mind, I'm not thinking this guy's going to get hurt, this guy's going to get hurt. I'm not thinking that Robert Woods. I'm just not. There's players that I am thinking that, not Robert Woods. And then everything else I just said, that I like Robert Woods. I think he's a steal on where he's being drafted right now. I think it's a big time steal. So, Titans aren't just going to stop throwing the ball because they don't have A.J. Brown anymore either, and they have Derrick Henry. They're going to distribute the ball here, but a big amount of it is going to go to Robert Woods. So, I don't really view that risky. I wouldn't call him a gamble, but I think most people will right now, and based on his average draft position, they will as well. Trey Lance is risky, not because a lot of these guys we're talking about because of injury or suspensions, because we really don't fully know what he's about. First year as a starter, could he struggle a little bit? Sure, he could struggle a little bit, but I think he's going to be a very good fantasy option here, and he's growing on me more and more for multiple reasons, because he's a great fantasy option because he can run the ball. 49ers love to run the ball. They're going to kind of scheme things open for him. It's going to be a tough game plan for teams. He's going to run the ball and score touchdowns, while some of these other quarterbacks that are considered better are throwing for the touchdowns, Lance is going to be, I think he'll be able to throw for the touchdowns, but also be running for more. Factor in that he is also getting better right now. He's early training camp to right now in that preseason game. Actually a big difference, and that is a short amount of time that it really feels like he's better already, and that is a great sign for the season for him to continue to get better down the stretch. This guy could be, early on, could it be like, he's probably going to maybe be on your bench, maybe a starter for some teams, but later in the year, it's going to be like a must start. I think about where people have Jalen Hurts right now. Where people have Jalen Hurts, where they're feeling great about taking him, for sure starting fantasy quarterback. What about Lance? Lance can do some of the same things with maybe more upside in a dominant rushing offense that is well coached, well schemed. So I feel really good about Lance getting better as a passer. Weapons are looking better as well. They got Debo in there. Maybe a guy like Danny Gray helps out as well. So feeling good about Trey Lance. And then the seventh one here is I don't really view that risky. But he is dropping a little bit where he's being drafted, I think, ever since that Hall of Fame game. And some people are considering him risky. And Josh Jacobs, running back from the Raiders, because he played in that Hall of Fame game, he started. And that on top of the Raiders declining his options. So it's like, do the Raiders even like him? This new staff, Josh McDaniels, do they even like him? They declined his option. Maybe it was a little surprising. He doesn't drop at all for me. He is by far the Raiders' best running back. Sure, they have a collection of backs that are pretty solid. I know they have a guy like Drake, who's solid, Zamir White, but Josh Jacobs is by far their best back. He fits Josh McDaniels' scheme for sure. He's only getting better, I think, at this stage of his career as well. Because they declined the option, they don't want to pay a running back big time in the future, but they won't care about the where. They're going to use him up right now because he's their best running back, and they're not going to extend him big money. If they can get him cheap, they may bring him back, but they're going to use him up now because the Raiders are playing in a tough division. They want to use their best players, their best back, and they want to give him that load there. So not worried at all. I think you talk about the Patriots, do the same thing. They don't extend running backs. They kind of shift to other ones, and McDaniels is coming from there. You look at the Patriots, I don't know if Ramondre Stevenson's that far off of Damian Harris, so I think that's a different situation. I'm a big Stevenson fan. I think he's got a lot of upside as well. I think it's a different situation. I think Josh Jacobs is, on the Patriots, would be by far the best running back as well. On the Raiders, to me, he is. They are going to use him. And they wanted to get a look at him in the new scheme in the very beginning of that Hall of Fame game. I'm not worried. It's not a risk to me. I think where he kind of dropped to because of that one stupid preseason game, 41, somebody's got him ranked at 93. It just seems like a steal to me. I feel like it's almost turned from like a somewhat of a risky pick. I don't view him as a risky pick, but I understand the argument from people. But it kind of went from that to such a safe pick down there. Like, it's a good running back that is going to get touches in the McDaniels scheme. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to get yards. He's going to get fantasy points. It just turns into somewhat of a safe pick. So, those are my 7 guys. There's other guys that we can talk about. You can get in contact with us on Twitter if you tweet at us. But there's guys like Lamar Jackson, Darren Waller, another Raider that maybe some would consider risky because of their injury last year. I don't know. They're maybe slightly risky. I'd be willing to take those guys for sure. I don't know. Right around their average draft position, though. There's nothing like eye-popping, glaring. I'd take them because they're very good players, and I trust them. I take them right around their average draft position. So there's a lot of guys like that. We'll do a video of guys that maybe I'm staying away from. So it's kind of similar to this video. There's just guys that I just really don't want to take, especially how early they're going, some top players. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. We got all kinds of, not just fantasy videos, but all kinds of NFL content here on the Goat House and more to come. Cannot wait for our weekly picks, score predictions, and more, power rankings, all that stuff. Cannot wait. Follow us on Twitter. A lot going on there. You're missing out if you're not following it. There's a link down below for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on because we got that full coverage. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.